It's time for a Damn Good Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Clement. From corporate executive to CEO to entrepreneur and the founder of Damn Good Marketing Live, this podcast is all about digital marketing, building a business you love, and creating a brand that's authentic to who you are. So if you're ready for honest, raw marketing conversations that you will not find anywhere else, let's freaking get it. Okay, guys, all the way from Australia, Christine is joining us today. Back in February, we met at Girlfriends in Business at the Lori Harder event, and truly, she made us do this exercise where we had to walk around the room and talk to somebody we didn't know, which truly pushed us outside of our comfort zones. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but I met Christine, and she's a freaking gem of a human. I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Shelby, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pumped that we get to do this. It's just amazing to do from other sides of the world.
I know, how cool is that? And y'all, seriously, we would have never met if we wouldn't have put ourselves in the room. But I will get to that conversation. But I just want you to dive in. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do, where you are in your life. Give us everything.
Okay, so my full name is Christine Corcoran. I'm a business mindset coach and high ticket sales strategist. And I've been working in the space for about 7 years, working with women in business to help support them overcome all the limiting beliefs, all the fears, all the doubts that prevent them from creating success in their businesses. Now, I also love talking about money mindset and imposter syndrome because they're two of the biggest things that I see affect people being able to really own their worth in their space, to be able to charge what they're worth, and to be able to put themselves in the room, to be able to put themselves in opportunities for their businesses to grow. It's not an
Yeah.
easy thing running a business, right? When you first start your business, it's literally like a personal development journey. And every single level, every single milestone you hit, you are coming up against new fears, new doubts, all the new things that come up because you are literally putting yourself outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. So I have run 2 different masterminds. I run a signature program called Unstoppable Sales, and I love running retreats as well here in Australia.
Oh my God, I just love this so much because so many things that you touched on. So limitations, imposter syndrome, scaling your business, knowing your damn worth. So let's dive in right there. That's what I love so much about these conversations is because as much as I prepare when y'all start talking, I'm like, no, I want that. So I want you to dive into knowing your worth. How do you advise someone to really lean into what you're actually worth? Because I saw something that you posted on Instagram and it said, just because it comes easy doesn't mean you don't need to charge for it. And so, can you kind of elaborate and give us a little tea on that?
Yeah, so there's a few different things because there's 2 different sides to it, I should say. There's the internal, right? It's our mindset about it. It's our belief systems that we have that we've been carrying for majority of our lives. And I will also say 99.9% of people on this planet doubt their worth, right? And we
Uh,
all have a belief system that we're not good enough. And that is driven home by society. We're constantly fed messages that we're not good enough, that we should fix this, we should be skinnier, we should be prettier, we should have the house, we should have the 2.5 kids, like all of the things for us to be enough. And so we're
yeah,
constantly being bombarded with this message of not being enough, that if we don't take the time to actually take the reins back and say, hang on a minute, I was born on this planet, and that the miracle that was that you actually exist here right now means you are worthy. So we need to almost denounce that whole story because we just have to stop picking up the story from society, stop picking up the story from sales and advertising, because you are absolutely worthy and you need to decide that. It's your decision. It's no one else's determination. Whether you are worthy or not, that's your decision. So you have to decide that first and foremost. So there's that side. And then
yes,
the second side is actually the business side of things of determining the worth of your offer and
yes,
separating yourself from your
mhm,
business, because even though you sell it and you may deliver the offer, it is not your worth on the line.
yes,
So we need to separate our worth and we need to determine the value of the offer based on the customer. And this is where the sales piece comes in, right? It's actually determining based on the customer and what they value, right? And what it's worth in the market and how valuable it is to that person long term and the changes that it will create for them. So it's got nothing to do with your skill set. And this is one of the things that people get so caught up in is they go, oh, I'm going to price myself because it's easy for me or it's fast for me, and then they end up undercharging, and then before you
yeah,
know it, they end up resenting the work, and then they get to
yes,
the point where they're just like, this is not worth it. I'm just going to go back and get a job. So I don't like seeing that. I hate seeing women give up on their dreams and doubting their worth or undercharging, because you should be able to earn good money and be amazing at what you do. Like, wouldn't you want to hire someone and spend money with someone that is great at what they do? I know as a business owner, I would rather invest my money in someone that actually loves what they do and are passionate about it rather than just hire someone because they're like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that." Like, do you
Yes.
know what I mean? Like, you wanna put your money in places where you know it's gonna be valued, and so the value that you're giving is also worth money. So you wanna consider the
Wow.
value exchange. So you're exchanging value for that person because they can't create that solution for themselves, so they need you, and so they're giving their value that they can give, which is in form of money back to you. So it's a beautiful value exchange, and when that's off because you're undercharging, it quickly turns south and quickly turns to the point where you become resentful.
Yes, and I really love that this conversation is happening because, like, truly sometimes what people don't do is they undervalue their worth because it is easy to them because typically what happens is you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, which means it does come easy to you, but that doesn't mean that you can undercharge because it does come easy. Yes, it might take you 30 minutes to do or whatever that skill set is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should charge. So I love that you told us that aspect of it. Now let's dive into a little bit of because I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand when you talk about like understanding your worth and imposter syndrome and just like kind of diving in and doing it. Like, what are some key components of imposter syndrome and what you advise your clients on and how to get over it and overcome that and chase their dreams?
Yeah, I love this question because I have a different take on imposter syndrome. A lot of times when you hear people talk about imposter syndrome, they talk about overcoming it. Whereas I actually don't
Mm.
believe it's worthwhile approaching it from that aspect because when you think about it from overcoming it, you think about like, oh, well, then I'll get rid of it and it'll never come back. That's actually
Ooh,
not the case.
not
It
true.
always comes back. There's always going to be new situations where you step outside your comfort zone and it's going to show up to protect you. It's really a
Yes,
fear-based thought pattern that protects us. So every time you step outside your comfort zone, you're doing something you've never done before. You're putting yourself out there. You're, creating something new, and you've never spoken on that topic before. Maybe you're in a room with people that are way more successful than you. Like all these times, the imposter syndrome shows up, and it's like, oh, am I good enough to be here? Who am I to think I can do this? Like all of that
yes,
fear-based language, and it's so funny because it's like no matter who I talk to, no matter where in the world, it's always the same scenario. It's always the same language that gets used. Like, am I good enough? I think I'm a fraud. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. They're going to find out I don't know what I'm talking about. Like all of this same similar language. So that's why it's a similar thought pattern. That's why it's called the imposter syndrome. But it's one of those things that you actually never overcome. So the way that
mhm,
we want to approach it is we want to recognize that it's going to show up. We want to expect that it's going to show up and allow ourselves to embrace it for what it really is.
yes,
A fear-based thought pattern. It's just fear, right? So every
yes,
human being experiences it. Every human being. So it's not like you are different or you're unqualified. You are not. It's not that you're not good enough. It's not that at all, right? It's starting to pay attention to the thought-based as a fear-based pattern, identify it and then work with it, embrace it and then work with it. So we want to identify it as imposter syndrome, yes, because it helps us then determine what tools to use to overcome it or to work with it, I should say. And then the way that I love to use it in my business and encourage my clients to use it is to
mhm.
actually utilize it as a growth tool.
Ooh,
So hear me out here.
yeah.
When you're doing things like anything that you've normally done, Shelby, like anytime that you are doing things you've done many, many times before from your day to day, do you experience the imposter syndrome on those days?
Not really. It's when well, I'm gonna let you do your exercise. Not really. Continue.
Right? And so then when you're doing things that are stepping outside your comfort zone, what you've never done before, that's when you're growing, right? Because you've never,
Mhm.
never done it before. It's a new experience, and you're most likely, meeting new people that you've never met before, or maybe you're interviewing someone on the podcast that you're like so like starstruck by, or maybe you're in a room and you're like, I'm not shouldn't be here. Like, who am I to be here? Like all of these types of experiences are things you've never done before. So your brain's going into a fear-based thought pattern to be like, oh my God, are we safe? It's freaking out, causing us to feel like we're not safe. And that's where the fear response kicks in. But
Yes.
those things are the things that you know are going to grow you,
Mm.
right? And so we
Yes.
want to override it and not let it stop us because the majority of the time is people feel the imposter syndrome and then they go, oh, yeah, I have the imposter syndrome, and they let it stop there.
Yes.
That's right. And
Yes.
so
That is so true.
successful people don't let it stop there. They go, I'm still going to feel it and I'm going to take the action anyway. And so the way that I encourage my clients to do it is go, let's say for the next month, I want you to think about what's one thing that you could do this month that would induce the imposter syndrome. I'd love to ask this from you, Shelby. Like, what's one thing that you could do this month that would activate the imposter syndrome for you?
Oh, right. Literally currently right now we're launching this membership where it's like I'm trying to figure out certain email sequences and like the technology back end that's like, holy shit, who am I to do this? Is this going to fail? Are people going to buy it? And it's literally flooding my brain, but it's because I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the moment it clicks, I was like, what the hell am I saying? Like, yes, this is brilliant and genius. And like out what because I totally agree with you because it's the uncomfortability of where you are learning something new. And that's when the doubts creep in. And that's where the difference is between successful people and non-successful people because the successful people keep going no matter what. So I love this exercise. And actually you've been pointing it out as we talk through it on the podcast so people can actually like talk through things in their head as well as we go through this.
Mm. So if I asked you to think about another one, what's one other thing that you could do next month that you've never thought of yet? But what's one thing that you could do next month that you know that will activate the imposter syndrome for you? Really putting her on the spot here.
You are. I think I just get imposter syndrome on because like thinking outside of the box right now, like business wise. I mean, I feel like okay, I know what I did. Remember, well, I don't know if you know this, but I like put my hat in the ring for powerhouse women to be on the stage, and so literally, I post like I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna do this!" Da, da, da. I went and like to film it, and I mean, I film myself all the time, so I thought it was gonna be like easy. It took us 2 hours to film the right one, and then the moment I posted it, I was like excited, and then immediately was like,
Oh my
"Why do I
God.
think I'm even gonna get this?" Like
Yeah.
who am I to think that I'm gonna get asked to be on the stage? Like, you know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand
See?
now. I
So
understand.
yeah, this is so good. So, like, you know that if you were to speak, and I think you'd be amazing. So, I think you'd
Okay.
absolutely be amazing. I need to just hit Laura up and be like,
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
Lindsay.
yeah, yeah.
So, think about like, you know that if you got that opportunity and you were on stage, you know that that would grow you, wouldn't, don't you?
Yes.
Right. So it's one of those growth activities that you know that even though it's scary, even though it's something that you like, it absolutely induces the imposter syndrome. It will absolutely grow you, it will expand you, it will change the way that you think about your speaking, it will give you the courage and the confidence to then continue to speak
Yes.
more, it will create expansion for your business and reach for your business. Like all of that is absolutely growth, right? So
Mhm.
it's you stepping outside your comfort zone. Yes. So we know the imposter syndrome is going to show up, but if we use it as that tool to be like, okay, well, what if I ask myself to do something like that every single month?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine how much your business would change if you were actively looking for opportunities to expand yourself in those ways.
That's actually genius. That's genius because 'cause I've never really thought about it like that. I've always said that imposter syndrome are just lies you tell yourself, so replace them with facts, which is kind of the same
Yeah.
thing-ish because it really is. Like, who am I to go up on that stage and speak to this room of people? Well, you change that with a fact about yourself of why you should be standing on that stage versus who am I to do it. So I think it goes hand in hand. But that's genius,
Yeah.
though. I love the fact that you have such an exercise and to be doing it out on this podcast so people can actually say, like, let me. So if you're listening to this and you're like experiencing imposter syndrome right now, take what Christine is doing with me, aka put yourself on the spot. You can record yourself and send it to me if you want. But put yourself on the spot and say, like, what is there something that's challenging me right now that could stop me from chasing my dreams? And then do exactly what she's saying and like implement it each month.
And it's like a muscle, like you're building up the strength every time you do something scary, every time you do something hard, you're building a muscle that creates this self-belief that you're like, I can do this because I'm able to do this, right? So
Yeah.
the brain can borrow the confidence and courage from other areas. And I think the other thing that I feel like really plays into this is understanding your fear response. So if you are
Mhm.
able to understand it and then transmute the fear, that's when you can shift it to what you just did there is you reframed your thoughts. So you were like, no, but who am I not to do this? Like
Yes.
I can speak. I can speak on camera. I can speak on front of stages before. I've spoken in front of groups before. Like you start to build this evidence bank, right? And so
Yes.
your brain was literally borrowing experiences and reference points from your past to be like, it's okay. We'll be safe. We'll be totally fine. And so if you then learn to do that, but then transmute the fear, because we can often stay in that state of fear and that prevents us from taking that action. Whereas if we can pay attention to what it is and be like, oh, okay, I'm scared, I'm actually not taking this action. So to give you an example, um at the beginning of the year, I reached out to someone quite big in the personal development industry, and I wanted to see if she was in Arizona at the time where I was going to be there, to see if I could do a podcast recording with her. And I was like, look, I got this like insight of like, do it, just reach out. Like, you never know. Like, what are the chances, right? You lose every shot you don't take. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so then for a whole week, I created this email when I should have just DM'd it. But I like wrote this email. It took me like a whole week to write it. And I pretty much like nailed it to the point where I was like, I'm really happy with this. And then what happened is I was like, okay, I'm ready to send it. And then like 30 minutes later, I found myself in another room of the house, folding up washing, doing like so many other things. And I was like, why am I out here? Like, it's almost like I blacked out.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to do this. Just kidding. Goodbye. And you
Yeah.
left.
I was like, what am I doing? And so I realized, like, what was I doing before I came out here? And then I realized, oh, I was sitting in front of my laptop ready to send that email and I did not send it. Why did I not send that? And I was like, I was scared. And I was like, okay, so take a moment. What were you really scared of? What are you most worried about happening? And I was like, that she says no, or I don't even get a response at all. And then I was like, okay, so can I handle that? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I get rejected all the time. It's totally fine. And then I was like, okay, so what's the worst case scenario? And she says no, like whatever. Like, if you don't
Yeah.
send it though, you don't get a response, so you don't know. And so I was like, just go send the email, Christine. So I went and sent it. But it's taking the moment just to acknowledge the fear and have a conversation with yourself and uncover that it's okay that you're scared. And I think some people just get stuck in it and they don't take the action. It's like, let's just acknowledge it. Like, I'm scared. What am I most worried about happening? How can I like play out the whole scenario in my head so I can
Yeah.
get a bit of information so my brain can be like, it's okay, you're not going to die. Like, our
Yeah.
brain goes straight to that of like, you're not safe, you may die. So if
Yes.
we can rein it back in and then transmute the feeling, you're more likely then to take the action on the things that you know are going to grow you.
I love that. Okay, so since we're very vulnerable and transparent on here, let's play your scenario out. Did she respond?
She did respond, and she was actually so freaking lovely. The timing just didn't match up. I was only there in Arizona for 4 days, so I was like, it was
Yeah.
unlikely that was going to work out. But I'm hoping that she'll still come on the podcast and we do it via Zoom. So, so yeah. But the thing is, like, I now have that connection. Now, if I hadn't have taken that action, I wouldn't have that connection to then be able to follow up on. And so I'm so glad that I did. And then also like have the opportunities to then meet other people to then I know that she's connected with, then also builds
Yeah.
like credibility in the space too. So I think it's one of those things that if you just don't take the shot, you just never know. Like, if you don't ask, you never get a yes.
Yeah, and truly it does build that connection. So you got a response that was nice because people are actually nice when you shoot
Yeah.
your shot. I mean, there was a rare occasion where they're not. And it didn't kill you that she
Yeah.
just said no. It basically was like a no or just not right now. It's not a
Mm.
no, it's not a yes, but it's just not right now. And you survived it, but you are proud of yourself for shooting that shot.
Yeah. That's
So
it. I
anyone
didn't take
listening,
it
you have to
personally.
understand that you still need to shoot your shot, whether it's a bad or a good outcome, because you still need to be proud of yourself for doing exactly what Christine is saying and hitting that syndrome head on and challenging yourself to just shoot your shot to whomever
Mm.
it may be. If you're ready to break through that small town mentality and take your business, brand, or corporate jobs to the next level, then Damn Good Marketing Live 2024 is for you. Now picture yourself surrounded by a community of like-minded individuals, all hungry for growth and success. DGML is your gateway to unparalleled networking opportunities and invaluable insights from industry experts. If you're ready to move that needle in your business and embrace a transformative experience, then I invite you to join us at DGML this year. Trust me, I've been in your shoes searching for that missing piece, and now I'm bringing it back to Louisiana because I know firsthand the power of putting yourself in the room. Because once you do, you'll be amazed by the transformation. So don't miss out. Secure your spot to Damn Good Marketing Live 2024. Check the link below in the description and let us know if you have any questions.
And learn to be proud of yourself in those scenarios, because sometimes what we do is we make it about ourselves. So we go, oh no, she didn't want to meet with me,
Yes.
or she
Yes.
didn't have a big enough following. I don't have this. Like, we make it all about ourselves when really it was a big ask to ask someone who's that busy, who has kids, has family. Like, there's a lot going on for her, I'm imagining. And then when I was actually there, I saw on her stories that she wasn't even in Arizona. So like, so many things, like it just did not transpire for the right time. And so if I had actually made that about myself, if I had taken it personally, then it makes the next opportunity very hard. right? So if
Right.
you don't take your time to really be proud of yourself in those moments where you take the hard road and you do the hard thing, then the next time you try to do it again, your brain will be like, no, no, remember last time you got that rejection, you took it really hard. Don't do that again. That was painful. So you've got to build up positive reference points. And that's about really training your mind, because our brains are literally like a toddler. They will run away and create chaos unless you manage them. So you've got to
Yeah.
keep bringing your mind back, and you've got to keep bringing your mind back to the positive and not toxic positivity. Come back to reality and just reframe it that supports your next step. Otherwise, our brains just go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally think that it's like you're shooting your shot. One, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And two, you are approaching an opportunity that could happen or could not happen. And you'll never know why that opportunity did or did not happen. But you should still be proud of like what you're saying. One, for doing the thing. Two, for just building that connection and that relationship. Because in all reality, that's all you need. That's the layer that you need in order to build a relationship with someone that you aspire to be or look up to. For example, I did for the people that listen into my podcast, they probably know this, but for Keisha's Empower her live event last August, Trent Shelton was there. And I went up to him and I was like so scared, but I was like, you know what? I just want to go tell him like he did a great job, whatever. So I went up, stood in line. He was like the most famous human I've ever met. And I left. And then later I looked at one of my friends and I was like, I want to ask him to be on the podcast. And she was like, do it. And I was like, I can't do it. And then she quite literally, because if she wasn't there, I would have never done this. She pushed me up to him. And I was like, this is exactly kind of how it went down. It was like, hey, I know you're in the season of no, but like, I know my podcast is really tiny, but like, would you be like, and it was like word vomit of like me, honestly, thinking back to it, it's kind of embarrassing because it goes hand in hand with imposter syndrome and your self worth. Instead of me going up to him and be like, hey, I know you're in your no season, but I would love for you to come on my podcast because it's about XYZ. And I think that you would be great with this. Instead of me like doubting myself that he's not going to make time for me because I doubted myself in that moment, which then led him to say yes, which then led for us to have a relationship, for him to be coming to Damn Good Marketing Live to the conference to speak. But the thing is, like, if Christine would have never shot her shot and I would have never shot my shot, or whoever's listening to this, you don't shoot your shot, you will never know where the opportunities will end up because you got scared in your own head. So I love that we're talking about self worth and imposter syndrome because I feel like they both tie in really well together.
100%, 100%. And also, we all need a friend like that just like pushes us. Go do
Yes.
your Shelby. So good. I just love that so much.
I truly am like really good at like hyping everyone else up, but when it comes to me, I'm like, I've realized, which is so weird, Christine, for me to say out loud, I'm the most introverted extrovert I've ever met in my life because I'm like so outgoing and so blah blah blah. But when I'm in a room where I don't really know anyone, I'm like so scared. Like even at Girlfriends in Business, I was like scared to talk to you, and I'm like, she's just another human. Like we're in this room
Yeah.
together. Why are you being a baby? And it was like great. I love that Lori implemented those things because truly, think about it like this: your typical human being is not going to go out of their way and go meet 3 to 5 people every time there's a break. Anytime people say networking, they probably pick up their phone and they're like, "Oh, I got to answer this person," or like they're faking that they have a text message or something because it's that painful to talk to someone else. So let's dive into that aspect. The power of putting yourself into the room. You've been in some really big rooms lately, even the dinner series, which
Mhm.
I'm sure you've maybe, I don't know, I'm just projecting at this point in you, is you may have felt imposter syndrome in that moment because that room was a big old room for you to be in. But let's just talk about the power of putting yourself in the room and like putting yourself out there while you're in that room because just getting
Oh,
in a room is not going to do it. It's actually putting yourself in the room and doing something with that that's going to move the needle. Let's dive in there.
so I flew 14 hours to get to the other side of the world to get in the rooms of big thinkers. Like it was so important to me to surround myself with people who think big, to show me what was possible, to expand the way that I think about myself, about business, about life, like all of those key things. And that I believe only can happen in being in rooms like that. And
Yes.
so back to your question around it's so important to obviously surround yourself with that and get in the room. But yeah, I was super scared. So I 100% had the imposter syndrome. The first event was in Arizona and I flew all that way. And I remember getting all dressed up and then heading to the venue. And as I arrived at the venue, everyone was standing out front and waiting to get in, and everyone was chatting and mingling. And I was like, I don't know anyone. And then I got my name tag and I could feel like the anxiety and the literally like my stomach was in my throat and I was like
Yes.
dry mouth and I was like, oh. like all of the fears were showing up. And so,
Yeah.
my imposter syndrome was going crazy. Imposter syndrome was like, who do you think you are? I can't believe you flew all
Yes.
this way. No one's going to care. Like all the things, like you are not successful enough to be here. And then I noticed someone who I had met on a mastermind that I was a part of years before. Thank goodness. And so I went straight, like beelined for her and said
Oh,
hello and started
good.
chatting with her. And I was chatting to a few other people, but the imposter syndrome was still there. And it's still, when I walked in the room, like it was still showing up for me to the point where I found it really difficult to actually focus on one conversation, because I was like, my eyes were like darting all over the room, and I had to take a moment for myself and just remember to breathe and be like, just focus on the person that you're talking with. And so I just honed in on the person that I was chatting with, and then again reminded myself that I belong here, that no
Yes.
matter what, I'm going to make some great connections. Or other people here in the room are scared too, and I'm sure everyone else is feeling nervous. It's okay. Just get talking. You know how to talk to human beings. Just talk to human beings. Like that was the inner
Yes.
chatter that I was having with myself.
I love that for you though,
And
but this is
so,
the thing. A lot of people don't think imposter syndrome is real until you get into rooms like this with you. And the fact that you teach imposter syndrome, like you like have the, the activities and like the protocols and things to do in order to go towards that and like really push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And you're here admitting that you still too have imposter syndrome. Anyway, continue. I wanted to interrupt, but
yeah,
continue.
100%. Yeah, you're so right. And I think that that's really good for people to know, because it's like, even when I have the tools, I'm still experiencing it. So I still
Yes.
need the tools. And so
Yes.
it's so important that you understand then how to talk yourself a little bit off that ledge, and also not put people on pedestals, because every human being is exactly the same as you. Everyone is a human being. And so what I noticed though was really interesting was, from the first event to the second event, also things changed. So the first event, I was nervous the whole time. I still had great conversations. I sort of warmed into it towards the afternoon, and then had a glass of wine, and then I was great for the rest of the night. Not that I
Yeah.
advocate for that, but it was a great evening. So,
Percentage off.
but the
Got
thing is,
it.
I made some really, really great connections. And so then
Yeah.
the second event that I went to, there was like majority of the people who had been at the first one were at the second one. So I already knew a lot of people. And so I wasn't as fearful, because my brain had a reference point that it was like, you've done this before, you didn't die, you're going to know people, it's going to be fine. So I went into
Yes.
the event time with a completely different energy, a completely different mindset, and I was much more prepared. So the first event, I kind of made some connections, but I don't feel like I really nailed the, how do I say it? Like, I don't really feel like I showed up as my best self. I don't really feel like I asked for what it is that I wanted. I wasn't as prepared. Whereas this time I knew Chris was going to ask us to have an ask. Like, I knew that. Like, did it the first time. I knew it was going to be the second time. So I actually really prepped my ask beforehand to make it really valuable. And then I also really thought about different ways that I can serve. So I was like,
Yeah.
I know that there's going to be some incredible people in the room. How else could I serve in this space? And so I came with a completely different energy, and this time was just epic. And the connections that I made have been incredible. Like, it's still happening. Like, it's all still happening behind the scenes. Still having great conversations, and they're leading to great podcast interviews, and they're really leading to opportunities to speak and opportunities to do masterclasses, like all of these amazing things for my business, but also just epic conversations. Like, the
Yes.
conversations that I've had have changed the way that I think about myself, about business, about success, and it'll change the way that I approach things in the future. And it's even changed the way that I approach my network here in Australia. And so it has been absolutely phenomenal. And some of the things that really have shifted for me from that wasn't anything massive. It's just certain little things that you hear, that being in the room with that vibration and with those types of conversations with those types of people, it's one little thing that just hits home for you. Or it's someone saying they did it this way, or it's someone else going, have you tried this? It's someone else saying, this is how I went about it. It's someone else saying, but this is something that you should totally do. And it's just, sometimes you don't realize what you need to hear until you hear it. And so even
Yes.
as much as you can be super prepared to be in the room and ask for what it is that you need, when I came from that place of just being open, it allowed me to take so much away from it, that now I'm like, I literally got home and have booked in for so many different conferences this year. And now I'm looking at what else can I go to? Because I'm like, can I get to Covington? Can I get
Yeah.
to
Yes,
Covington
girl, with
and
that
be
damn
there? I'm
good
like,
marketing live. Get your ass over here. Are you coming? I love that. This is the thing though. What I love so much about what you said, and what I love about the rooms that are curated that we've placed ourselves in, is the unapologetic ask that they allow for you to have. And that I believe that if that wasn't given, that opportunity, then people like me and you and anyone else really sitting in that room would have never just unapologetically said, like, I'm looking for podcast guests. Cause like even at Girlfriends in Business, she tells you, give us a little bitty clip of who you are and then do your ask and then how you can serve people. And I think that that's very powerful because it cuts through the bullshit conversation of like, how's the weather? How was your flight? Like, who cares? Like, get to the grunt of why we're all here. And I think that that's so powerful that you're like, this second time around, I was able to beautifully craft such a response of how one, I can bring value to the room because even though you felt imposter syndrome and even though like I know the room that you were in and I was like, I'm not ready yet. Not meaning that like I felt doubt in my mind of being there. It's just like it wasn't ready in my journey yet to go to that room to feel confident to offer something or to ask for something. And so, but I know the room that Christine is talking about and it's hella intimidating. But the fact that you went in and you crafted your ask and then you also crafted the value that you can give back is just like so
Mm.
beautifully mind-blowing to me because it's like you did the damn thing. And now you're seeing the reaps of the benefits of it because you did it. Even though the first time you were
Mm.
like, who can I go fit in their pocket because I'm scared and I don't want to be here. I mean, not that you
Yeah.
didn't want to be there, but like so literally if you're listening to this and
That I
you're
was ready
doing
to run.
wait, what? Wait, what?
There were moments I was ready to run.
I'm telling you, like some of these rooms make me want to run, but it's also like putting yourself like Christine and I would have never met, ever met if I would have not got on on a plane, her too, to go to Scottsdale, Arizona and did Girlfriends in Business, which is a phenomenal event. Um, and where Lori was like, go meet someone and like talk about XYZ because we would have never done that. You were in the middle of the room, I was in the front of the room, and it was just like where we were. And as a human being, I clam up too. And so it's just like so intriguing to have conversations like this with other people as well because truly like from the
Mm.
outside when I met you, I'm like, this girl is so confident. She has zero problem working. That is exactly what I thought when I met you. And so like I was like, I need her confidence.
Nonsense.
I need her confidence. So like it's just so mind-blowing like when you talk to other people because there are so many people in the world that really make me pissed that hold themselves back because they believe such things that they're telling themselves versus
Yeah.
sitting in the damn room.
So I feel one of the things that I would love to share on, which I feel like is something that is a big mindset piece that I find really works well when it comes to events. So one is reminding yourself that everybody else is just as nervous as you, right?
Yes.
And secondly, it's just about finding common ground. And when we
Mhm.
put people on pedestals, and like you said, you used the word intimidating before, I don't look at that room with Chris and Laurie being intimidating at all, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the people in that room are freaking phenomenal and
Yes.
they are amazing and they're real human beings. They're genuine, loving human beings. And there was never, ever a moment where I felt intimidated. Was I envious of their success? Yes. Was I like blown away of like, oh my God, wow, they've created something pretty amazing? I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, cool. What can I learn from you? Like I was so
Yes.
excited just to have more conversations with them. So I think one of the biggest things is don't put people on pedestals. Remind people that you like yourself that everyone else is just like you. Everyone else is a human. Everyone else needs to go to the bathroom. Everyone else has fear. Everyone like all of those things. And one of the things I always remind myself is when I'm in my head, right, I'm dead. So it's like the Tony Robbins saying. He's like always says, when you're in your head, you're dead, which means when you're in fear, when your brain is running off in all the different tangents with fear, you're not really being the best version of yourself. So I just remind myself to breathe, bring myself back down into my heart and go, how do I just connect with the human being I'm standing in front of? And that's what I
Yes.
would just remind myself every single time at an event is like, just breathe and like make a connection with them. So I will just be like, usually give a compliment or I will ask a question because I want to find some type of common ground that we can connect on. And I feel like that makes such a big difference. And also when you ask a question, it deflects from yourself. So you can give yourself a moment to just to
Yeah.
like get back into, your heart.
I love that. So I love this entire conversation because I feel like it just validates a lot of things because even no matter what frame or where you are in your journey of success, you will always feel the imposter syndrome because it just means you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And being an entrepreneur, living your life online, and doing all these things is really the definition of living outside of your comfort zone because you have to push yourself to break through the noise, to actually have conversation. And I love that you said these people are human too. Now, 100% agree with that because I went into a few things when I met people at a different caliber than me. that I envied or look up to, and I put them on a pedestal, and I feel like it just ruined that experience for me. Not because of anything they did, it was because of what I did and my mindset, where I wasn't framing it as this person's just a human being too. They might just be a couple steps ahead of me, and I love their success. And instead of me being like, oh my God, I'm meeting so and so, I should have just been like, how did you do it? Or this is one thing I'm struggling with. What did you do if you face this? Like, instead of like framing it
Yeah.
in such a starstruck way and just like looking at them as a human being just like you, they started where we are or where you are, wherever you are in your
Mm,
journey. They're just a few steps ahead because they are a few steps, they started before you. So that's literally the only difference.
yeah. Exactly. And they've got other things going on too, like just like yourself, right? So sometimes it's about finding common ground in other areas that don't feel intimidating to begin with, because like if you recognize that if you know that person, you know a little bit more about them if you've already been following them for a while. So sometimes I try to think of like what's something that's more personal, what's something that is more like on the everyday scale that I can make a connection with. So I might
Yeah.
say, like, if they've got kids, I might comment on how freaking cute their kids are, or I might ask them about something that they've posted that was funny this week, or something
Yeah.
like that, that just helps to just like break the ice a little bit, because I feel like they also don't feel like being put on pedestals. They don't like it. Like, it's not nice. Like, and
Yeah.
I noticed that you will probably experience that too when you're more on stages like you with, if you're partnering obviously with Trent Shelton, like people are going to start putting you on pedestals. And so you've got to be conscious of that. And so whenever clients sometimes do that with me, and I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. You and I are just the same. You and I are
Yeah.
just the same. I've taken a little bit more action. I started a little bit earlier, but you absolutely can achieve what I've achieved. And there's nothing different to you and me. Nothing. Right.
I love
So
that.
starting to actually make sure that you just don't pedestal people, because when you want to connect with someone, you want to connect with someone on a human level, and someone doesn't want to be connected with because they're a celebrity, right? Like,
Yes.
so being conscious of that, that you can just make it really personalized, and you're more likely to make a better connection when you make them real rather than make them this idolized person that we look up to, of like, they can do no wrong. They can absolutely do wrong. And they suck at things all the time too.
Yeah, they just, they go through the same things that we go through. You just don't probably know about a lot of it unless they're sharing. So
Yeah.
awesome. I absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. It was so awesome for you to join us. What time is it there? So right now, y'all, as we're recording, it's 4:45 in Louisiana. So what time is it where you're at?
It's 7:45 in the morning.
Oh shit.
It's all good.
We're at night, she's in the morning, guys. So hey. Oh my God. So when we originally booked y'all, it was supposed to be 3 p.m. my time. That was gonna be 6 a.m. your time. You're like, "No, Shelby, I need coffee. Leave me alone."
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, cool. Anybody that wants to go follow Christine, you should. She's absolutely amazing. If you wanna just take a road trip, it's just a flight, skip, and a jump over to Australia to hang out with her. I'm gonna put all of her
Or
links
I'll
in the show
probably
notes. Wait, what?
I'll probably run I'll probably run into everyone at an event in America more likely.
Yeah, probably. Just come to the events with us. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Everyone, all of her information's in the show notes. Thank you so much, Christine. I appreciate you for sharing your knowledge with us.
So thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy.
Absolutely. And if you liked this episode, which all of you should, go ahead, leave us a comment, review, all the things, share with your friends. And until next time, let's freaking get it. And that's a wrap on another episode of Damn Good Marketing Podcast. Thank you all so much for being here. Make sure you comment, review, share it with a friend. Come back next week. And until next time, let's freaking get it.